What's going on, everybody? It's your girl, Mary B. Welcome back to another episode of Something's Gotta Give. In today's episode, I'm going to be talking about daddy issues. I can't have a full episode on mommy issues and neglect an episode for daddy issues, and I'm having a really difficult time making this episode. I am very protective over my father and the relationship that we have, and maybe that is the problem. Maybe I'm too protective over the man that is supposed to take care of me. Growing up, my father was always in and out of the picture. And I learned to look at him as a savior. But just as much as I learned to look at him as a person who comes and rescues me, I always knew that he would be the reason my life would crash and burn too. Because whatever he created, he would disappear and that would all fall down to the floor. My mom could not self-sustain a life in the United States outside of my father without his guidance. And I never knew why my father was always in and out of the picture. I had no idea. Not until I was 16 did I learn that he is an addict. When he first moved out of the house when he was 16, his addiction to alcohol began, and he didn't become sober until he was in his 40s. And that was the reason why he was so in and out of my life growing up. But I had not one clue. Not only could I rely on my father to save me, but to also destroy me, my dad kept a lot of secrets and he told a lot of lies. So I found partners romantically who would do what? They would keep a lot of secrets and they would tell a lot of lies. And I would accept that behavior because I did not know of another example of what a man should be because of what the example my father set for me in the beginning stages of my life. My father also had a habit of stealing from me, and I didn't know why. I now know it's because of his addiction. Not only did he have an addiction to alcoholism, he has an addiction to gambling. I was born in Las Vegas. Majority of my adolescent years spent with him was in Las Vegas. So whenever he would disappear, that went with him stealing from either me, whatever money I had saved in the piggy bank, or from my mother, whatever money she had left in her debit card, her credit cards, etc. Because my mother used me as a pawn and needed my father to make life sustainable in the United States, he would often fall for her manipulation of getting back with him because he simply just wanted to be around me. And he knew being around me would have to deal with him being back with my mother. But that situation is so toxic. When you're going through something toxic and painful, what do most people do? They run back to a substance to help them suppress or get through the reality of life. So of course he couldn't manage life that was unhealthy for him with my mother and me without his addiction. He never wanted me to see the ugliest sides of him, so he lied and he kept that hidden from me. Now, some would say that, in a sense, it's great that I never seen that side of my father. I never actually seen him have a drink in my life. I never seen him do any form of drug. I never witnessed him losing his mind, gambling away all of our money. He would disappear before I had the chance to see that. But it doesn't hide away the fact that my father just would disappear on me when I need a father. I'm a child. I need guidance. I need protection. I need someone to provide for me. How can you just rip that away from me when he just came around to give that to me? When I ended up in the foster care system because of my mother my father reappeared yet again, and I was told that he was now fighting for full custody rights through the foster care system / adoption process that was happening. And I would see my father under supervised visitation weekly. And I learned to love my father even more through that time, because I'm not with my mom anymore. I'm with some strangers. So, of course, I want to be with any one of my parents. And he's there week after week, showing up. But not only is he showing up, he's showing as the best version I've ever known of him to be, because he's spoiling me the most I've ever been spoiled. We would go to museums and arcades, and I would get whatever clothes I wanted, and I would be able to eat whatever I wanted. And I never experienced that with a parent before. And so I'm quickly getting attached to this version of my father. And after a while of doing supervised visitations, our visits became unsupervised. And so our bond became stronger, I'm learning that I can really trust this man that's in front of me. And we were this close to him gaining full custody. And I remember those visits getting closer and closer to that court date of finalizing that he would have full custody. My father would tell me that he had an apartment for us, and my room was so beautiful, and my TV was hung up a certain way, and I had this color comforter, and my bed was going to be so comfortable, and my walls would be painted my favorite colors. Like, he was really painting the most beautiful picture I ever envisioned with my life. And I finally was going to be able to have that with my father, until the court date came and he didn't show up. So that pattern of him coming around, being the savior, making me feel so good and so happy, was reinforced yet again by him disappearing with no reason, no warning, nothing. And I'm just left with my wild imagination to make reason as to why this man is behaving this way towards me. So when I wound up adopted, I just convinced myself that my father didn't love me and I wasn't worthy of a father to begin with. So I grew to be very masculine. I grew to be my own provider, my own protector, because the person I relied on time and time again to be that, unfortunately, could not fulfill those shoes. But my life with my adoptive mother wasn't sweet. And I remember I just got really tired of the emotional abuse I was experiencing and the brainwashing I was experiencing with that family, that I had enough. One vacation when we went to Alabama to see her side of the family, that I asked my cousin if I could go on his Facebook and possibly see if I could find somebody from my father's side of the family. So I looked up my father's name, and I actually did come across his Facebook page, but it had been so long since I seen him, I could not recognize him in his profile photo. So I continued to search for family members with the same last name as mine, and I found some aunts who looked very familiar through photos that I had of them. I never met them. I just remember them through pictures. And I messaged one aunt in particular, and I said, hey, I don't know if you have been in contact with my father, but I would love if you could connect us. Fortunately, she messaged me back and she was like, yes, I actually have been in contact with your father. This is his phone number. And I called my dad, and my dad and I talked every day for 2 weeks. And he was doing a lot of research on his end as to how he could figure out a way legally to see me again, because this is 4 years into my adoption, and my adoption was a closed adoption. So legally, I'm not allowed to have any ties with my past. Remember, I am now Nevaeh to Nestle Smith in this chapter of life. And my father found some loopholes and some laws essentially that stated when your child is at age of 16, that you can't neglect them from seeing their parents if they wish to do so. So my father asked me for my adoptive mom's number so he could talk to her and ask for visitation rights yet again. That's all he wanted. He just wanted to be able to see me. And he was going to make arrangements to get him down from Boston to Virginia to do just that. And when he got on the phone with my adoptive mother with no hesitation said, I don't want her anymore. You can have her. Come down and pick her up. When they had this conversation, I was staying with a very good friend of mine who lived in a neighborhood just across this creek from me. I would walk through the creek to get to her house so often, and I happened to be staying the night at her house, essentially because I was terrified of being at my home because I was talking to my dad behind my back, and I was very scared of my adoptive mom and her family. And she kicked me out. She told me I wasn't allowed to go back home and that she would see me again when my father would come down to pick me up, and that's when she would give me back all of my things. I wasn't allowed to go home to pack any of my stuff. I was forbidden, but I needed clothes. I couldn't fit the girls' clothes that I was staying with. So I would run home during the days when nobody was home, and I would pack little by little, just enough for her not to be able to notice what I had packed so I wouldn't get in trouble. And my dad ended up coming down a week later from that conversation from Massachusetts, and he picked me up from the girl's house I was staying with. Thank God her family members were okay with letting me stay there while all this drama was going on in my life. And my adoptive mother didn't want my father to go to my house to pick up all of my things, as if he found out where she stayed, all hell would break loose. Like, woman, I know where you stay. I live there too. I could easily have just told him, but whatever. Have it your way. We meet this woman at the mall, and she's unloading her car, putting all of my items into my dad's truck, or what I am told to believe that are all my items. I asked her time and time again, can you make sure you pack X, Y, and Z? And the biggest thing I kept asking her to do was to pack the money that I kept saved from the first job that I started working at 16. I kept in a shoebox. And I didn't have enough time to go through my items. So I just had to trust on my adoptive mother that she wouldn't take from me, because why would an older woman have to take or steal from her daughter? That would be a little odd, right? Not in my world. So we did that long 8-hour drive from Virginia to Massachusetts, and I come to my first home that I had in Framingham. Now, my father and my now stepmother were not prepared for me. So I basically lived in a living room for the whole year. When I first got back, I learned that my adoptive mother did not give me basically any of my items. She just packed up my pajamas and all of the things I just didn't like, conveniently. And I would call her every day. Can you send it to me? Can you send it to me? Can you send me my money? Can you send me this? And I never not once got a phone call. And I learned that my father told me that she told him, you're not going to be able to handle her. You're going to be calling me back in a week to come pick her up from your care. Well, that's really funny because that never happened. But she was very angry and very malicious that I got in contact with my dad. So I guess that was my punishment, was for her to keep all of the clothes that I just bought from my first job that I ever worked, to keep the little money that I had saved. I think it was like $300, the only money that I had to take myself school shopping. And so when I first moved to Framingham, I had an aunt who was very kind, the aunt who connected me to my father, and she took me shopping, and life became good. I never had a relationship with my father, so I was finally able to connect with him. I spent so much time with my dad because I didn't have any friends in Framingham. So he would take me to school. He would pick me up from school. We would do everything under the moon together. So if I wanted to go to the mall, if I wanted to go out to eat, if I wanted to walk around the park, like whatever my desires were, I had the greatest friend in my father. And I believe that time period was very, very important because there were years, so many years that passed of me not having a relationship with my father. But I will say, even through those times, he was growing and past versions of himself were tested. I remember one day I came home and he wasn't able to pick me up from school, and I'm looking around and my dad's not around. An hour passes, and I realized that the money that I saved from this new job that I just started working at in Framingham is taken, and I'm starting to lose my mind, telling my stepmom, like, my dad has left me yet again, but I don't even know who you are. I don't even know where I am. I'm in Massachusetts. Like, what's going on? My dad ended up coming home really late that day, and he was so shameful. You could see it written all over his face, and all he said was, like, I'll get you your money back. And later on, he had a conversation with me as to what he was experiencing. And I'm now not only building a relationship with my father, but I'm also learning what it's like to be so connected to a person who's a recovering addict. So our relationship was a little different because I would attend AA meetings with my father. I would have him really confide in me with past memories and his current state of mind to me. And I just feel like throughout my whole adolescence, I was not necessarily present in my body because I always needed to fulfill some role for whoever was around me. And I feel like when I was with my father at that point in time, he was taking care of me financially, yes, but I was taking care of him emotionally because he always wanted his daughter because I'm his only child. But he also could never be the father he wanted to be because of his addictions. So I'm overstanding to this. And I never, ever held my dad accountable or made him feel bad or played the guilty card towards him. And when I became an adult and I started to go out all the time and started to drink myself, I realized, like, oh my gosh, I have been suppressing my whole life. And when I get by myself, I'm not okay. Because I've always learned to take care of other people. I never was taught how important it is to take care of yourself. I neglected taking care of myself. I didn't even know what that looked like. I didn't feel like there was actually anything wrong because I was built to be so strong, but strong for others. The truth is, I'm very sensitive. I'm very empathic. And I was never allowed to be that. Life was never safe enough for me to be in tune with who I actually am, to my feminine nature. I always had to be in my masculine. And my days got really dark and I realized, like, oh my gosh, I'm becoming my father. This is scary. I'm becoming the version of my father that I don't even like. Because as we've grown, my father is not the same man that he was in my childhood. You know, he's been sober for 16 years now. He picks up the phone whenever I call him. He's always there for me whenever I need him. He shows up to the best of his ability. If I need to have some help financially, I know I can call him and maybe he can't send me $2,000, but he can send me $200. Like, my dad shows up to the best of his ability. And I'm very, very thankful for that. But the version of myself that I was becoming wasn't the version of him that I learned when I was 16. It was the version of him I learned coming out of the womb. Your personality is set in the first 5 years of your life, right? So of course I'm repeating the habits of the man that I learned within the first 5 years of my life, within the first 10 years of my life. And so the example he showed me of allowing people to abandon you, I allowed people to not be present in any relationship that I had. My friends weren't necessarily the greatest of friends to me. They always chose themselves. I always had to do things for them, whether it be me driving miles out of the way or being the one that is always driving because other people simply just don't want to, or being the last one invited somewhere because I wasn't the most important friend. I just allowed to be always treated as the last consideration because I only knew that experience. Romantically, I would allow my partners to keep secrets and hide text messages and hide their phones and treat me as the side chick. And I would be okay with being the side chick because I was my father's side chick when it came to addiction. I was everyone's side chick. I was never anyone's first choice. And so when I allowed myself to play that part of being someone's side as an adult, it never felt good. And I didn't like that I wasn't feeling good, but I didn't understand why I was allowing myself to play this role. I would allow my partners to lie and lie and lie, and I would be so angry, and I would say, I would never talk to you again. You got me so messed up. We don't do that around here. And then the moment I get lonely and I'm just in the presence of myself and my own energy, I forgive. Why? Because I always forgave my father. I always felt like I had to forgive because, well, what other option did I have? And I had to forgive the terrible behaviors because I didn't believe that if I chose something better, I could have something better. I didn't believe that if I raised my energetic alignment of knowing that I'm just not going to deal with people lying and I'm going to have to now wait until someone comes around and meets me at the energy of honesty. I didn't think that was real because little me didn't think that truth was really a thing. I thought it was a facade. So, healing through my daddy issues, I have become sober. I have realized that alcoholism goes past my father. It was something that his father did, and probably my grandfather's father did, and so forth. All of my family members from my dad's side of the family suffer from addiction, mainly functioning alcoholics, but there's other addicts who dabble in drugs, etc. I'm like, oh, wow, I have to really be the black sheep and just choose to not do anything because I could simply choose to be like y'all. I could choose to act as if this addiction is not running deep in our veins, but I choose to not do that. I choose to be aware. I choose to be better. I choose to be enlightened. I also am healing my daddy issues by setting boundaries with my father and speaking my truth. If I have a memory that I feel like my dad needs to hear and I need him to understand something about my past and why I'm now choosing to do something in my adulthood, I'm honest with him. And he gives me the space to share my honesty. He doesn't deny my truth. He just simply gives me space and meets me where I ask him to be met. And I'm really thankful that I have a parent who doesn't deny my truth. Rather, he reinforces that I continue going on this journey of healing. Because as I heal myself, I do heal him. And it wasn't always pretty healing this relationship with my father in my adulthood. Because when I was in Framingham, I didn't make him go through any type of bad space. Not until my adulthood did I like make him realize like, oh, I am not too happy with you. So I canceled Christmas one year. I canceled going home. I no longer talk to my stepmother because I don't feel like I need to have a relationship with your wife. I don't like her for a plethora of reasons, and that's a whole nother episode. But long story short, I just do not align with her. And so I choose myself, and I choose to not be present in a woman who has failed yet again on fulfilling the mother role in my life. I'm 29 years old. It's too late for me to have a mother. And I don't need to compromise on making you comfortable because that's a woman that you married. She's not my stepmother, point blank, period. I tell him what I am comfortable doing and what I'm not comfortable doing. My dad loves to gamble. He loves to go to the casinos. I hate it. So if he wants to visit Las Vegas and he wants to have me go out there and meet him just because he's on the West Coast, I will simply say no. You can come to Los Angeles if you'd like, but I'm not going to compromise myself and be around energy that I hate for very good reason because it triggers my trauma. I learn things about myself. I'm honest about the things that he has done to me that have formed me to be the person that I am today. And I don't make him feel guilty for it. I just figure out how we can set new pathways to create a relationship that is bountiful for the both of us. And I'm really happy to say that I am a daddy's girl to the core. Always have and always will be, through the pain, through it all. And I'm finally at the other side of it. I feel free. I feel free and I feel very present with my father. I am so happy that we're both sober. I am so happy that we're both in a space to make space for each other. Relationships with your parents are, to me, the ugliest relationship there is. But out of that horror, I've made beauty. We have made beauty. Daddy issues aren't just in women, they are in men too. We all have daddy issues. And I think all of us should take the time to learn things about yourself so you can make a change in the healthiest manner to heal those traumas, to become better, to become what you've always desired to be as a child. That inner child is always in you. You have to nurture it every day. Thanks for listening, y'all. Till next time.